Hi, what's up guys? This is Durian Productions. Today, we are going to open books, a Lenovo Thinkbook 14. A few days back, we also have a video on the 15-inch version. The difference is very minimum except for the screen size. We now take it out. The design of this Thinkbook 14 follows all its previous models, such as the Lenovo logo at the right down side and the Thinkbook logo. The color is gray, which looks really gorgeous. At the back side, there is a really wide window for cool wind to go in. The plastic stand is very high, which gives enough air for the laptop to cool. The reason why Lenovo Thinkbook series are widely accepted is that it got quite many ports and a very special hidden USB 2.0 ports for those wireless mouses and keyboards. It has an SD card reader, a USB Type-A port, a charging port. On the other side, there is a Internet cable port, a 4-size HDMI port, a USB Type-A port, 2 Type-C port, one of which can be used to charge the laptop. It's very convenient in case you cannot find a Lenovo original charging cable and just use a Type-C cable from somebody else. There is also an earpiece cable. On the right side, there is a Harman Kardon sound box. You can hardly use one single hand to open the laptop. The mechanical part feels quite soft. Once you open the laptop, the screen is pretty good. The keyboard is very good, a traditional U-shaped Lenovo keyboard. The touchpad is quite plasticky, the same as ThinkPad 15, as well as the power button, which houses Windows holographic fingerprint function. The screen is a 14-inch IPS panel with nano barrel at left and right. There is a Windows camera at the top and quite wide barrel at the bottom. We now go to check some specs. We power on the device. The backlit keyboard is very good. It feels pretty snappy and enters Windows very quickly. The total power on time is approximately 20 seconds. In everyday use, for Google, for searching, and for web browsing, it is definitely a device that will make you forget what you have a few years back. The scrolling is very smooth. We now go to YouTube to listen to the sound quality and check the screen feel. It's not as good as the 15-inch version. The bass is minimum, the sound is a bit narrow. The screen is also not as good as the 15-inch, the contrast is low, and the brightness is not as good as the 15-inch version. Let's go to some benchmarks. It houses an Intel Optane memory solid-state drive, very high, 13K. Bear in mind that we use 10 gigabytes to test everything. The Blackmagic Road speed test shows that the CPU is very powerful, and you can see that it can edit 4K 50p, which is far higher than the 10th generation i5, which do not have this option. The Cinebench R15 also gives a very high score, around 670. Although it's not the top, but bear in mind that we are running a battery and this performance is extremely respectable. We open i7-64 and check some specifications of this laptop. The CPU is 10th generation i7, 4 core, 8 threads, can run up to 4-point-something GHz. It has 8 GB DDR4 memory on board. It has another slot to expand the storage to a total up to 40 GB RAM. The display uses a Chinese CMH brand. It's not as good as the Philips display used in the Thinkbook 15-inch version. In the specs, it looks very similar to the 15-inch version, but the contrast ratio is a lot lower, and the feeling of the screen is not as good as the 15-inch version. However, this does not say that the Thinkbook 14 has a bad one. It's just not a top IPS display. The memory uses Intel H10 solid-state drive with 32 GB Optane memory. The wireless card is a AC9560, not from crap brand, which is good. We then go to check the stability test just for the CPU. Turn on the performance mode, and after approximately 20 seconds, the temperature rises very quickly to 80 Celsius degree, and the power is around 25 to 30 watts, which is a very good number. The high power consumption will guarantee a very high CPU frequency. This is a plus, not a con of this laptop. The temperature is keeping increasing with a pretty stable power consumption. We leave it for 10 minutes, and now we go back after 10 minutes. The power has gone down to approximately 15 watts, and the temperature approximately 70 Celsius degree. The interesting part for this laptop is that it does not just go down to 70 degrees and 15 watts. It is simply going back and forth between 15 watts to 25 watts, and then 15 watts and 25 watts. In between, you will see the temperature fluctuating between 60 Celsius degree to 80, and then 60, and then 80. Although it sounds a bit strange, but the bonus of this mechanism is that you can hardly feel anything wrong or anything too hot on the keyboard, and there is barely minimum temperature on your hand. The only hot part of this laptop is basically at the back of the laptop where the hot wind goes out and the ESC key, this row of keyboard. I will give it a plus for this mechanism since it lowers down the overall temperature you feel, and it makes everyday work a lot easier. We later use the same software but click the GPU to make sure that the CPU and GPU are both under stress. We open hardware info since our i7-64 is a trial version. Currently, the frequencies, temperatures, and power are all listed in the software. We now start the stability test, including GPU. After a few seconds, the laptop chucked quite for some time. It suggested that the discrete GPU may have some problems under this BIOS. However, if you look at the spec data, it's not bad. The power is approximately 13 watts with a good frequency around 1 GHz. On the CPU side, the frequency is pretty low. It jumps between a 400 MHz to 1.8 GHz. And this explains why now the laptop feels very laggy. The system has a total power of 46 watts with approximately 11 watts to CPU, which is a good number, and approximately 14-15 watts to the GPU. The temperature is 80 Celsius degree, which is pretty similar to the stability test in the CPU alone. The GPU also has approximately 80 Celsius degree, which is quite understandable since they are on the same heating pipe. Now, we're at approx 10 minutes for the stability test. It's still 80 Celsius degree, and we can see another temperature control mechanism. When you have the CPU and GPU both running, then the temperature limit will be set to 80 Celsius degree rather than a fluctuating mechanism previously. You can feel that the whole keyboard feels warm and the back of the laptop is actually pretty hot. It's okay for those gamers, since most gamers generally accept a higher temperature limit. The GPU clock is even slightly higher than the starting period, which is a good news. We stop the stability test, and the temperature as well as the power consumption drops significantly. This shows that the laptop has a very good fan system. Although there is slightly some heating in this laptop, the 25 watt level of this laptop is very good comparing to other brands like Dell or HP. The noise of the fan is not as good as the Dell XPS or the Lenovo Yoga series, which has a very stable sound, very stable fan. This laptop, Thinkbook 14, will have slightly more noisier fan, not in the dB or the sound level, but actually in some zla sound. Finally, we give some comments and suggestions for this Thinkbook 14. The Thinkbook 14 is now selling for 5K RMB and probably 4.5K on Taobao. It's a very good buy with the discrete graphics. It has a same model from China, the Lenovo V6. Everything is the same between Thinkbook 14 and the V6. There are only two major differences. The V6 has a smaller 36 watt-hour battery, while Thinkbook is 45, and V6 does not have the Optane memory. This will impact slightly a bit the everyday life. The Lenovo Thinkpad E series features slightly better craftsmanship, better keyboard, better touchpad, and better feel. If you need a laptop, definitely for commercial use, then go to ThinkPad. However, Thinkbook has an additional 2.5-inch bay for HDD or SSD and an additional RAM slot for more RAM up to 40 GB. ThinkPad, on the other device, do not have them all. We look at some other brands, such as the Lenovo Inspiron Fit 14. It's a lighter 14-inch laptop. So if you need a lighter one, then maybe you may consider this one. Take note that it's slightly more pricier. I personally do not recommend this Lenovo one, since it's not really a lot light, but it's more pricier. Dell also has Inspiron 5000. This one is very heavy, around 1.7 kilograms. However, the screen for this laptop is very dim, below 200 nits, and the performance actually in this laptop is far from ideal. The same also happens for HP. For the HP, it uses another root. It has a very beautiful outer shell. The brand is also so very good. And most importantly, you can add RAMs as well as 2.5 SSD or HDD for the laptop. Basically, the HP series is mostly for users who need more expandability. The Star 14 series, I'm not really familiar with that. But if you are familiar with HP, this brand, then you will know that most HP laptops has some problems. The first is that the overheating issue is pretty significant. The second is the performance of these laptops may be limited. And third is the bad screen. One thing if you stay in mainland China is the Asus EliteBook 14. This one, the craftsmanship, the screen, the keyboard is pretty bad. But there was one bonus. It houses a massive 17 watt-hour battery. If you value battery life other than anything else, then please go to Asus EliteBook. Recently, Redmi Book 14, which has just been announced recently, is really a good buy for 14-inch laptop. The battery is 44 watt-hours. Everything is just okay for this level. If you just need a 10th generation Intel with a proper level of storage and have no need for expandable RAM, then go for Redmi. As a summary, the Lenovo Thinkbook 14 is a very good option. It has a very good balance between expandability, the weight, the everyday use, the battery, and everything else. You cannot really find anything wrong if buying this Thinkbook 14. Unless many other brands, including Dell, HP, Xiaomi, they may have some good sides, but they have something that will make you feel very bad, such as the overheating issue in HP, the dim screen for Asus EliteBook, and the craftsmanship in Redmi, and the screen in Dell laptops. As for the Thinkbook, then you will not have all these issues. Finally, thank you very much.